Good evening, everybody. This is David Marin with the League of Women Voters. Tonight we will have a candidates forum with the three candidates for Ventura County Supervisor representing District 2, which is the Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park area, and now part of Camarillo. Our candidates tonight with us are Claudia Bill de la Pena, Jeff Garrell, and Tim McCarthy. Before we start our program, I'd first like to introduce Kathy Morgan, is the head of voter services, with some important messages for us. Kathy?
Thank you, David. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 with the mission of educating a new group of voters, women who were granted the right to vote nationwide with the passage of the 19th Amendment 6 months later. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization committed to providing voters with factual, non-biased information, and as such does not support a particular candidate or political party. The League today continues with the mission of empowering voters and defending democracy by registering voters, providing information about the candidates and the issues, getting out the vote, and supporting fair and transparent elections. The candidate forums are an opportunity for voters to hear from the various candidates and to get the information they need to make an informed choice when they vote. Attendees to the forum are invited to submit the questions they wish asked of the candidates when they register. The candidates have not been provided the questions in advance, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer the questions posed. We are glad that you are here tonight to hear from our candidates. We hope that you get the information you need to make an informed choice. And at this time, I would like to turn it back to tonight's moderator, David Marin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Tonight's program will be opening statements, 1.5 minutes each. Then we'll take the questions that were submitted from attendees, and then we will wrap up with our closing statements of 1.5 minutes each also. We randomly drew numbers earlier, and our first candidate tonight will be Claudia Bill de la Pena, followed by Tim McCarthy, and then Jeff Garrell. At this time, we'll go ahead and get started. Claudia, when you're ready, you have 1.5 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David, and thank you, Kathy. My name is Claudia Bill de la Pena, and I have been a 27-year resident of the city of Thousand Oaks. 20 years, almost 20 years on the Thousand Oaks City Council, 2 years before that on the Thousand Oaks Planning Commission, endorsed by Aaron Brockovich for my first race for city council, and now again for county supervisor. I am a mother. I have 2 children. I'm a caretaker. My mother lives with me. My husband and I own a small business. I have a master's degree. I'm an Emmy award-winning news writer, and I love this community, and that's the reason why I have been a public servant for all this time, being a public servant while working full-time in Los Angeles, while being a mother, while getting my master's degree. This District 2 and all 125 residents, 125,000 residents of District 2 are deserving of the quality of life in Ventura County that we have enjoyed for decades. And there's really no one else that knows how to see the community, how to shape the community, how to protect the community the way I do. I have my finger on the pulse of our community and will continue to do so as your representative on the County Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Tim McCarthy.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation. First of all, I'm not a politician. I'm a family man. I'm a business owner, and yes, a God-fearing American. I hate that career politicians are ruining our beautiful state, and if the trend continues, will be catastrophic, as shown by the people leaving the state and the county by the thousands, including businesses. I am a 25-year Thousand Oaks resident and been inside District 2 as an active community member the whole time. I've been in the public safety and security industry for 35 years and the last 17 years as a business owner right here in Thousand Oaks. I've been a member of the Knights of Columbus charity organization for 22 years, where I focus much of my efforts towards helping women and children, including the special needs community. I've coached basketball from 2nd grade to 12th grade and was an Eagle Scout badge counselor and volunteer for 8 years with the Boy Scouts. And most recently, I've been very active in trying to hold our elected officials accountable. Poor Board of Supervisor leadership has caused major damage to our economy, infrastructure, health, and schools. Their priorities on public health emergencies and redoing the Ventura County seal. It took 7 years to get out of the last recession because there was no business experience in the board, and we can't afford the same results. I have the experience, the passion, and the resolve to get our community back on track, and I look forward to the questions, David.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Jeff Gorell.
Thank you, David and Kathy, for having me, and for everyone in attendance. My name is Jeff Gorell. I'm running for Supervisor. I've had an opportunity to serve this community in many different capacities since I came to Ventura County in my 20s. I've been a Ventura County Deputy District Attorney and prosecuting criminals. I've been a small business owner representing agriculture and manufacturing. I was elected to the California State Legislature and I represent Ventura County in the California State Legislature, where I stood up for our values. I fought for our open spaces. I fought for public safety and other issues that were important at the time. I served as an adjunct professor of public policy at Cal Lutheran University, and I taught both at the undergraduate and graduate level. I served as deputy mayor in Los Angeles, overseeing public safety and homeland security in the second largest city in America. I also serve and continue to serve in the United States Navy. I'm a captain, and for 23 years, I've been in the Navy. I'm currently a regional commander, overseeing 22 units. I'm running for office because I love this community. I have two boys, 12 and 8 years old, and I want them to inherit the same kind of wonderful quality of life that I've enjoyed and the same kind of opportunities that Ventura County has provided them. I think we need to focus on public safety. We need to focus on protecting open space. We need to take bold, aggressive actions on homelessness. And we need to stop government overreach. I'm endorsed by firefighters, deputy sheriffs, Supervisor Kelly Long, and City Council Member Al Adam, as well as former Supervisor Frank Schillo and a number of other leaders.
Thank you, Jeff. Tim, we're going to start our first questions, and you're up first on this one.
Okay.
To the audience, I will be asking every question to each of the candidates. Tim, let's go ahead and start with homelessness. So how would you handle the homeless population in Thousand Oaks? What are your plans for, let's say, Thousand Oaks in the entire district and county?
Yeah, well, I see homelessness every day in the encampment right off of Jance and the 23. And it bothers me all the time to see the trash just building up and tents and huts being built. Homelessness has many different levels of crises. You have mental health, you have drug and alcohol addictions, and then you have those that are just a matter of circumstances have found themselves on the streets. Part of the big problem is that government is trying to do it, and they're failing quite miserably. There are other organizations that are private partners, such as Many Mansions, Catholic Charities, Hope of the Valley Rescue Missions, that have wraparound services that give the full plate of assistance needed to get people off of homelessness. For example, we provide housing in certain situations, but we don't have the mental health caretakers to provide and recommend medicine. We don't manage them and monitor their progression, and we don't help them find jobs and get them off the street. Whereas Hope of the Valley or Rain Transitional Housing, they have facilities where they train people on careers, they counsel them on finance, and they help them maintain a job and stay clean off of drugs. Right now,
Tim, have to stop you there.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Jeff, you're up next on the same question. How would you humanely handle the homeless population in Thousand Oaks and the county?
Right. Homelessness is the human crisis of our generation. And we need to take, in Ventura County, immediate and bold action to get ahead of this problem before it gets worse. And every day it gets worse. And we need to do 5 key things, 5 steps, and we need to do these immediately. The first thing is, yes, community-based organizations play a pivotal role and can do things the government can't, but nevertheless, we need all hands on deck. City government, county government with its mental health services and public health services, as well as our state and federal partners all coming together. Secondly, we need to get more state and federal grants and pull those down. Our county has not done a good enough job competing for state and federal grants and pulling those down. I see those grants going to other cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, other larger cities. We need to create the wraparound services that prepare the homeless community from being from leaving the streets. That includes mental health 911 dispatch, which they're doing in Oregon and other places throughout. There's very successful mental health courts, drug courts, and more services for our veterans. We need leverage. We need to put teeth back in our drug laws so that when we go and we find people that are moving narcotics through the encampments, that we can prosecute them and bring them into drug court, as well as those that are suffering from addiction. The Boise case says we need placement, so we need to build brick and mortar. We need shelters, we need hotel rooms, and we need transitional housing. I stand behind Supervisor Frank Schillo, who's working to try to find these. Together,
thank you, Jeff. Going to have to stop you there. And Claudia will, we will go ahead and move on to you, Claudia, for the same question. How would you humanely handle the homeless population in Thousand Oaks and the county?
I will tell you that I'm the city council member who has actually formed an ad hoc committee on homelessness. And as a result of that, we held our first town hall in 2019 to educate the residents of Thousand Oaks to the homeless are, whereas before residents really didn't want to deal with homeless and wanted us, the council, to round everyone up and ship them out. But most homeless people in Thousand Oaks and in District 2 are local. They're homegrown. They have graduated from our local high schools. They have fallen hard times. They have fallen victim to opioid addictions. And so it was, and it took an education about homelessness, and for the residents of Thousand Oaks to see the faces of homelessness and realize we cannot send them away. So what have I done? I have ensured that we, the city of Thousand Oaks, have secured enough money and have signed a contract finally with two nonprofit organizations to establish a permanent supportive housing program, the first in the history of Thousand Oaks. And that will hopefully come online later this year. We have also signed a contract with many mansions to establish our first emergency homeless shelter. This was unthinkable 3 years ago because the residents weren't ready for that at all. And it took education in order for the tide to shift. And we're Harbor House is a wonderful organization that is helping with homelessness, and I'm really looking forward to putting
Claudia.
people from their cars into
I have to stop you there, Claudia. Thank you. Jeff, you're up first on our next question. Let's stay somewhat in the area of housing. What do you see as far as how to provide affordable housing? Do you have any particular thoughts on what cities and the county can do? Are you for higher density, different ways of financing, all of those types of questions? How would you provide more affordable housing?
Well, no doubt. I wonder what the world will be like when my boys are prepared to stay. You know, I would love them to stay in Ventura County, and can they afford a home when they get of that age? And that's a real question for every family that's in Ventura County. Certainly in the east side, in the 2nd district, which is a very expensive place to call home. But it's a combination of identifying ways to get infill, to get more affordable housing built, try to find projects that fit our community, that are supported by our community, that are low income or moderate income for working families can afford, and identify more ways there, as well as seeing if there's a way to provide right of first refusal for those who have lived in Ventura County or have been in Ventura County for many years, to take advantage of some of the moderate income housing that could be built in some of our areas. So these and many other are things. Unfortunately, there's only so much that government could do. There's only so much that government should do to interfere with the marketplace. But there are some things we can do to make more volume of housing and more affordable housing.
Thank you. Claudia, same question to you as far as your ideas to address affordable housing. Do you have any particular thoughts about how the city and the county can work together in your district, provide more density, those types of issues?
The city of Thousand Oaks is undergoing a general plan update where we increased density to a much higher density, more than I personally preferred, but obviously we do need to make room for others. And the issue of housing and affordability is that in 2012, the redevelopment agency took money away from all the cities and we were left holding the bag. How do we provide for affordable housing without being given the grants? So thankfully, the city of Thousand Oaks, because of my leadership, we purchased about 4 acres, and we're going to be partnering with a nonprofit organization or developer to provide affordable housing, finally, to help those families that are the glue that are holding our economy together. We're talking about teachers, firefighters, dentists, store managers, office managers. They're low income because they don't make more than $90,000 a year. $90,000 a year for a family of 4 is considered low income in Ventura County. And so I am very proud that we were able to secure a parcel that will be called home by many working families in the very, very near future. And that is what we need to continue to do and seek funding from the county as well as the state. And we certainly have to push the state to get our funding back so we can provide for more housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you about how you would address affordable housing. What are some of your ideas to manage the problem?
Yeah, it seems like the cost of the construction of housing is quite high. You know, the average price of a house in Ventura County is about $800,000. But as Claudia mentioned, the average income is a little less than $100,000. So it's very difficult for even regular hardworking people to afford homes here in Thousand Oaks. I know I have children here that would love to buy a house, but it's extremely difficult to. The county, the state, and the cities all play a role in trying to cut the cost. They all have burdened the development with excessive fees, red tape, and permits, sometimes tripling up, which increases the cost and delays by as much as 30% on development. I think when you talk about affordable housing, I don't think the housing is what's less pricey. I think it just takes more money from the taxpayer to offset the difference of somebody who can't afford to live there and make up the difference. So taking the taxpayer money doesn't make it right. It just makes it a way for somebody to get in there that really can't afford to live there. Some of the new construction, like in the 1710 building, their rent is anywhere from $3,500 and up, which is not considered low-income housing at all, but it's very expensive for just our regular young couples to afford there. I agree with some of the new construction areas that we can do over by the Amgen as they move out. Unfortunately, there's opportunities to make them single suites and studios and try to increase that population in that area, which is close to downtown traffic.
Have to stop you there, Tim, but you're going to be up first on the next one. So we'll just keep it with you.
Okay.
Let's shift our focus, candidates, to the climate and the environment. Tim, how will you mitigate climate change impacts on Ventura County? And we have a variety of questions on this. They ask about things like acidification, water supplies, sea level rise.
Yeah, it's certainly a big topic. Let's just start with water. It seems like even though we have big rains, we seem to be in a drought every other year. And when you go back and look at where some of that water is going, a lot of it is going straight to the ocean. It's not being captured. A lot of water from our state is being diverted from Southern California for the Delta smelt. I talked to the Metropolitan Water District, and they said if we don't have this false water going straight to the ocean, we would not be in a drought at all. Locally, we need to invest in infrastructure of reservoirs and water tanks as a short term. And then a long term, we need to be a water producer because I don't expect the state to improve. So we should look at desalination plants and try to be a producer of water that we can disseminate in the local area and even sell the water to communities around us. As we move forward in the county, I know one of the questions is whether or not we put more water towards the steelhead trout and try to keep that river at high levels. I'm against that. I don't think that arbitrary placing fish in a stream and us having to populate it with water to maintain its life is a good use of our water. We need more water for our agriculture. We need to continue to drill oil here locally so that we don't bring oil in on ships that hurt the climate. Everything we can do to try to maintain clean air is something that I'm in for.
Thank you, Tim. Claudia, you're up next. How will you mitigate climate change impacts on Ventura County, specifically areas like acidification, water supplies, and sea level rise?
Well, the latest report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change showed that the temperature is rising the fastest in Ventura County, and there are reasons for that. And that is why we need a leader on climate change. And I'm the one who's endorsed by the Sierra Club. I'm endorsed by the Center for Biological Diversity. And that is because of my very strong advocacy for the environment to reduce climate change. And all of that goes hand in hand with, for example, the water supply, desalination, all of that. But most importantly, greenhouse gas emissions. Because leadership to bring 100% renewable energy to Thousand Oaks, the city has reduced greenhouse gas emissions at municipal facilities by 80%. Community-wide, we reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 30%, and the city of Thousand Oaks received several awards because of that. If we don't cut down on greenhouse gas emissions, for example, then there is not much really to work toward at all. Regarding the water, we're looking at a water and a drought that may result in no outdoor watering at all. And so we need to look at how can we do a better job at storm water capture, for example. That is what we must look toward, as well as looking to see if we could do a desalination plant to construct that as well. I would be in agreement with that. But again, I'm the only environmental candidate who believes in climate change.
Jeff, same question to you about climate change, the impacts.
Yeah, thank you, David. I've actually taken action in this area as a legislator. On the Utilities and Commerce Committee, we passed 4 or 5 different bills that incentivize renewables, solar and wind, made it more affordable for that to expand in Southern California, and for that to enter the grid. I also worked closely with a desalination plant that was proposed for the Camarillo area to bring in brackish water, to purify it, and then to cycle it back and allow agricultural interests to use that in the fields in the Camarillo and Oxnard plains. I also authored a bill that was signed by Jerry Brown, the governor, to bring clean emissions and clean energy to the port of Hueneme. It allowed them to tap into the state infrastructure funds to upgrade their utilities and their energy use so that they could be 100% emissions free. And that was supported by the port of Hueneme when I was a legislator. I supported one of the most stringent regulatory bills on fracking to make sure that fracking wouldn't and couldn't ever interfere with our water supply. And I agree that we need to do more on water locally with capturing and with desal locally, because the greatest impact of the climate is transportation of water.
Thank you. Claudia, we're going to start with you on this next question.
Can you turn off the microphone, please? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Claudia. So we're going to
people and I can't hear.
Claudia, so this is the next question. That last one was very detailed. We tried to talk about 3 particular areas. This is around climate, but it's much more broad, and this will give you a chance to share a little bit about your worldview, about what are the things we should do. The question is, people want to live here because it's a beautiful place. How will you protect our environment? Try and give us some of the policies and the actual things you'll do to make that happen.
Thank you for that. For 20 years, I have been fighting for the environment to protect the open space, and so has Linda Parks. SOAR is the result of Linda Parks's hard work, as well as the hard work of many other local elected officials. This has no urban sprawl, because if you want to build, it has to go to a vote of the people. And I was instrumental to ensure that SOAR is extended for another few decades. And that is why when we have had a very tough day in that, we take a deep breath when we drive home, because it's Ventura County, the open space. We love it. We absolutely love it. And so that is what I will continue to do protecting the environment, the open space, and being a steward of the very land that is protected by the voters. And regarding the environment, I just wanted to say that I'm also endorsed by the Conejo Climate Coalition. And I would like to say that one of the candidates here tonight has had an F regarding Clean Water Action Scorecard in Sacramento, F on water issues, 27%, and overall environmental score of 33%, which is another F. So if you want someone who takes care of the environment, our groundwater, then I am your candidate.
Thank you. And Jeff, you're up next. So Jeff, people want to live here. It's a beautiful place. So what will be some of the steps you'll take to prevent our environment and actually make those things happen?
There's no doubt. I mean, that's why we're all here. We love Ventura County. We love our open space. We love our hiking areas, our beaches. A lot of the open space that we see and that is iconic for Ventura County is open space because we have agriculture there. We have ranchers and farmers. And they are doing worse than any of the other 14 counties that have agriculture because of the thumb that's placed on them by county government and the difficult bureaucracy that it is to manage and to be a farmer or a rancher in Ventura County. I met with a farmer recently, and it took him 2 years to get a small barn approved with the county of Ventura on his property. But if we want to preserve that character, that open space, beautiful farm, ranching, citrus characteristic of our community, we need to support our farmers. We can't ask them to continue to be the stewards of our land and yet not provide them with the tools to succeed. We can't impose upon them things that Linda Parks has imposed, like the SOAR initiative, that don't allow them to do anything else with their land but farm, and then crush their ability to be successful farmers. They are the greatest environmental stewards of the community because they preserve so much of the open space. So one key thing is I will be supporting our farmers and our ranchers.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you. It's a beautiful place. What would you do to protect the environment? What are some specific things that you'll try to accomplish?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I agree with both the other candidates, where one of the reasons why we moved to Thousand Oaks was because of the beautiful mountains and the ruralness that it provides. And I'd hate for it to become LA County, where we have buildings that are over 5 stories high, which is what's going to be built underneath Claudia and City Council. That's been approved. But one of the things that hasn't been talked about to help with the environment is the protection of our forest, right? We see these massive wildfires every year, and the county has the ability to put resources into it, clean the underbrush, and to reduce some of these massive wildfires that puts the smoke and the fumes and the ash up into the air, coming down. It hurts breathing, hurts the water, and hurts our environment. I think that, along with managing our water environment for our agriculture and for keeping our grass green and for the normal sprinklers of our parks, I think helps the environment. You know, speaking of parks, I think the parks districts in many of these cities do a fantastic job. And the environment, as you drive through and you see the cleanliness of that, the ruralness in the background, all makes it for a great place to live. So I would put money into the fire department or work with a criminal justice system to try to take some of those people, to put them to work, cleaning that underbrush and getting them back to work.
I'm going to have to stop you there, Tim. Okay, we'll move on to our next question. Jeff, you're up first on this. Let's take a look at just what it means to be a supervisor. And Jeff, if you're elected, what will be your top 3 issues, your priorities as a Ventura County supervisor? Where will you put your energy?
I think first and foremost, it's public safety. And we've seen break-ins, burglaries, we've seen international crime gangs coming in from South America and victimizing people in their own homes. People are living in fear, whether there's a high probability of being a target or not. And that's just an unacceptable place to be, because Ventura County used to be one of the most one of the safest communities in America. And we need to claw back that safe community characteristic. We also, and when I say public safety, we also need to focus on preparing for brush fires and being the safest community we can as it relates to fires and emergency management, the way that we go about evacuating and communicating and working with our neighborhoods to deal with emergency management. We need to address homelessness. It's first and foremost, bold actions right out of the gate. We need to clear encampments. And the only way we can do that under Boise is by creating placements and services. And we need to have that all done within 12 to 24 months, or else we failed as a county board of supervisors. And then I would also say small business. Small business have been ravaged under COVID, and they've just been challenged under the bureaucracy of county government, and they need help. They need people that have owned small businesses and people are sympathetic to what they're doing to create jobs and to stimulate the economy.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you. If you're elected, what will be your top 3 issues and concerns and priorities?
Yeah, I think I agree with Jeff on public safety has to be one of those top 3. I own a security company. I get calls every day about things that have happened with burglaries and robberies. And it's the fear of crime that's an all-time high. Even though the crime numbers may be lower by some statistics, the fear of crime is at an all-time high. So we need to invest money in our police. We need more of a presence on the street. And we need to put some fear into the criminals that are coming from LA County to say, don't come to Ventura County. So that's one of them. The economy is in very bad shape. 19 out of the last 20 years, we've had a net migration loss of people moving out of Ventura County. Just in the last 2 years, we've had over 12,000 people moved out of Ventura County than have come in. The average income is too low to afford our houses. Our businesses are leaving thanks to being overtaxed and too much red tape and regulations. Without a strong economy, a lot of this stuff that we want to do, like desalinization plants, won't happen. So we need to bring back businesses. We need to incentivize them to bring back white collar jobs that allow us to bring in higher paying jobs to afford our area. We also need to handle the homelessness. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. And it's going to continue to get worse. Now that evictions have started, you'll see more people on the street. And as the prices continue to rise, we'll see more people fall off the cliff and get in there. So we do need to stop giving free food, free room, and free board, and figure out a plan on how to help them step up, not just get free services.
Thank you, Tim. Okay. And Claudia, same question to you. What would be your top 3 priorities if you were elected?
My top priority is to preserve the quality of life in Ventura County. What does that mean, quality of life? It means public safety. It means managing the homelessness issue with compassion and efficiency. It means improving the economy for small businesses, absolutely. But I will say that while I have been on the council, Thousand Oaks has been able to expand the biotech and biomed industry to a great deal. We are attracting high caliber talent to Thousand Oaks, to Ventura County. We're helping with a venture capitalist establishing other labs, and that is what will help fuel the economy of Ventura County. That has been happening. Also, regarding public safety, Tim is right. The fear is greater than what the numbers show. In fact, crime in Ventura County is down. Now listen, is down 10%. It's not up. Down 10%. In LA, it's up by double digits. We do know that. But here in Ventura County, and especially in the city of Thousand Oaks, we have been and are among the safest cities in the nation. And that has not changed because I have refused to defund the police, unlike what happened to the LAPD just a couple of years ago.
Thank you, Claudia. We're going to go ahead and stay with you, so I'll unmute you. Claudia, for this next question, let's talk a little bit about the office. And Ventura County is 10 cities and a lot of unincorporated area. So if you're elected supervisor, what would you do to make sure that the residents in the unincorporated areas of both your district and the county in general are heard, are protected, and have their needs met?
District 2 is the most populous district of the entire 175,000 residents. And District 2 is the only district which has 4 municipal advisory councils: Somes, Santa Rosa Valley, Oak Park, Casa Conejo. Those are the very people who are and will be making advisory decisions to the supervisor as well as to board supervisors. And none of the other districts, with the exception of District number 1, may have 1 municipal advisory council. But previous county supervisors for District 2 have not wanted to keep municipal advisory councils because, let me tell you, they are a lot of work every week, week in and week out. I pledge I will not dissolve any of the municipal advisory councils at all, because nothing is more important than the voice of the people whom I represent. And additionally, I have an open door. In fact, as a council member, my cell phone here rings 24/7. My office number goes straight to my cell phone. I pick up the phone at 2 in the morning, regardless of where I am in the world. That is how accessible I am. My home address is on my campaign website, and I don't shut out comments on my social media web pages because the feedback from residents is what is needed. If candidates cannot take the heat now,
Thank
it
you,
will only
Claudia.
get
Thank you.
comments on social.
Thank you. Tim, we'll go to you for the same question. How would you make sure residents in the unincorporated areas are heard, protected, and have their needs met?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, one of the reasons why I'm running is because our Board of Supervisors ignores the people. There might be some municipality groups out there. The problem is that our Board of Supervisors pretends to listen and then comes back and makes an arbitrary decision how they think things need to be run based on their own narratives. I've heard from a number of people, from a number of groups, from the agriculture, from ranchers, from businesses, and they all say the same thing. We've been fighting this fight for decades, and no one seems to listen in the Board of Supervisors. And if I get elected, would I have an open door policy? The answer is yes. I'm representing the citizens. I'm representing the people. I'm representing the people like myself that contact the county with a grievance, and I want some kind of resolution. I want to be heard. That's not happening today. And I promised that I would have roundtable meetings with the different industries across the different cities and unincorporated areas to get to the root of these causes. My goal is to fix the problem. I'm not here for a job. I'm here to do a job. And that job is to make our community better, get more quality out of our life, and make people happier. And I can do that with an open door policy and be able to hear their grievances and then put action into place to resolve them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff, we'll wrap up this question with you. What would you do to make sure residents in the unincorporated areas are heard, protected, and have their needs met?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I do support the MACs. I think the municipal advisory councils are important in communicating needs and requirement for services. I do agree with Tim that our supervisors have failed in many ways. I visited a home just last week in Oak Park where the Board of Supervisors authorized next door to them a 3-story compound that looks almost like a prison under the umbrella of it being an ADU, granny flat. And it looks terrible. It's clearly not the kind of thing that was envisioned under ADU. When I was a state legislator, I had a strong record of constituent affairs. I had a great team that went out, made sure that people got the services they need and that they got the follow-up and they worked through the red tape of government. I would continue to resolve to do that, be the hardest working supervisor that the county's seen. When I was a state legislator, I did something that I'll continue to do as a supervisor, and that is I held sidewalk office hours where at least once a month I would take a card table and I would put it out in a community area, usually underserved, underrepresented area. And I would sit there and allow the community to come up to me so they didn't have to put themselves on calendar or go to my office or go into one of the government buildings. I would be there in the community. And that level of exposure, that level of engagement, that level of support is critically important because these unincorporated areas, they rely upon us like city council members for them to get their public safety and all of their services. Couldn't be more critical.
Thank you. Tim, you're up first on our next question. We're going to move to the area of public health. And Tim, the question is, discuss your understanding of the county's role regarding the public health and the separate public health officer. Do you think the public health officer should be replaced?
Well, I could tell you that the public health for Ventura County was terrible. I mean, first of all, the emergency use authorization was taken out of context, and they were forcing people to have to get vaccinations or lose a job. As I contacted the public health director, Dr. Levin, I asked him specifically questions about public health, and his answers continually change. The narrative was to try to keep the citizens in the dark and try to force as many people as possible to get vaccinations. I think from the very beginning, Dr. Levin put out a 9-page document about why masks were not important. And then as soon as the state of California sent down money to the county, he reversed his position and was pushing masks and vaccinations. I don't think the county should tell people how they should take care of their health. I think they should put out the facts. If there's scientific evidence that lean one way or the other, they should present those facts and let the people be responsible for their own family and their own health. Anything related to do with mandatory vaccinations or mandatory wearing of masks is unconstitutional, and I'm 100% against it. Should he be replaced? That remains to be seen. I believe he's up for retirement, and I think he'll be retiring before any of us get in. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, same question to you. Discuss your understanding of the county's role regarding public health and the separate public health officer. Do you think the public health officer should be replaced?
You know, I think that when the new board of supervisors comes in, I think all senior level leaders in the county are on the table because there's clearly an environment at the senior level of Ventura County government that is unhealthy. And that is evidenced in the fact that this county board of supervisors did not act in a timely manner and was oblivious to the actions going on by the CEO, who now has been forced to step down. So I would absolutely take a look at every senior leader within the county government. Public health couldn't be more important. And I get it. There was a lot of fear and a lot of concern. It was in the very early stages of COVID in particular, it was essentially the sense that there was a meteor headed toward the planet Earth, and that there was a lot of government overreach at the time. I don't believe it was malicious or intended to cause harm. But I think in retrospect now we see that decisions were inconsistent. I think we see that there was certainly government overreach to take certain actions that caused more harm than protected people, including shutting down and interfering with our small businesses and requiring people to wear masks in outdoor areas, and some of the things that just don't make sense. So I don't see myself supporting any public health officers' recommendations for those kind of shutdowns or mandates.
Thank you, Jeff. Claudia, we'll go to you for the same question. Discuss your understanding of the county's role regarding public health and the separate public health officer. Do you think the public health officer should be replaced?
Both of the other candidates here tonight have publicly called for the removal of Dr. Levin and everybody else in the public health department. That is indisputable. Just wanted to put that on the record. The question is, do the candidates here believe in science? I believe in science. Also, I trust the experts to make the decision. Also, a single supervisor, not even the whole board, can fire anyone, not Dr. Levin, not anyone else. That is up to the CEO. So to say you want to come in and want to look at every department head, that is not at all in the purview of any single supervisor. You have to take that up with the CEO, who is in charge of hiring, firing the HR department. So that is simply what I wanted to clarify. Ventura County, this entire time of the pandemic, not once made residents, not once forced us to take the vaccine. It was the entire process was education, outreach, and encouragement. No mandate ever issued by Dr. Levin for everyone to get. Since this follow county guidance, and the county follows the state. So if you want to make changes regarding public health, better off run for governor.
Thank you, Claudia. I'm going to move on, and you'll have chances later or closing statements. But Jeff, we're going to move to the next question, a very big issue, especially in Thousand Oaks. How will you address the rise in hate groups, those that are hosting events and demonstrations and hanging banners in Thousand Oaks? Share with us your thoughts about hate groups and racism in general.
Well, it's not a long answer. First of all, I think it needs to be condemned. We condemn racism, we condemn hate, we condemn bias. We won't tolerate it in our government and the people that work for us. We won't tolerate it as expressions externally. But then I think the key thing, one of the key things here is frankly to ignore it, and or it'll go away. If it doesn't go away and it continues to fester, then there are things that can be done and have been done in other communities. When I was a deputy district attorney, we had a tick in white supremacy related hate crimes in the Simi Valley area. And we engaged there. We engaged there in multiple ways. We worked with community-based organizations to engage and to educate the community. We had community panels, and we worked through community-based organizations to break down silos and try to open up levels of communication that created the animosity in the first place. And groups like Life After Hate, which address white supremacy with former white supremacists, came in and talked and worked through issues. Similar things can be reproduced if necessary here. And that's how I'd move forward.
Thank you, Tim. Claudia, same question to you. How will you address the rise in hate groups hosting events and demonstrations and banners in Thousand Oaks? And what are your plans regarding racism?
The number of hate crimes or incidents is up in the country over the last few years. The numbers show that. And if you don't attack the cancer early on in stage 1, it will become larger until it drowns out everything around us. When the first banners were dropped on the overpass on Borchard Road, I took it personally. It was offensive. And I knew that members in our community, people of color in different religions, felt threatened. They didn't feel welcome at all. And somebody needed to speak up. Somebody needed to let them know that our community members, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Black, brown, whatever color, gay, you're welcome in Thousand Oaks. And to ignore that means you're just not acknowledging the hurt that our residents, our minorities feel. And so I did take action. I did take action because I myself experienced discrimination, and I wanted the city to take a stand. It was an uphill battle for me to present an anti-hate resolution. It should have been a slam dunk, but it wasn't. But in the end, that anti-hate resolution was passed. And they did come back. But this last weekend, there were residents who fought back and let down banners that said "One Love." And that is what we, Thousand Oaks, want to be.
Thank you. And Tim, we'll wrap up with you. Same question as far as how will you address the rise in hate groups hosting events and demonstrations, banners in Thousand Oaks, along with your views on racism?
Yeah, those groups are mostly from outside our area, and they drive in much like the criminal gangs do. These people are driving in and they're just trying to make their point across there. Listen, it falls under the US Constitution, the freedom of speech. I think you just need to put police around it, make sure that they don't create any harm to businesses or to other people. Creating a resolution doesn't do any good. It's just something that's on paper, but the Constitution allows you to have free speech. We see it all over the country. I think if we don't provide them the public forum, the newspaper articles, the media, then eventually they go away and they disappear. But there are some things that the county is encouraging that create some of that animosity. The CRT, critical race theory, pushes race. The 1619 Project pushes racism and teaches somebody to be an oppressor and an oppressee. There are things that we're doing that's pushed down from the county level and the state level that's making things more divisive and making people move to the edges of their beliefs rather than coming together as one community. Listen, there's always going to be somebody who's a racist. You're not going to stamp out 100% of racism, but it doesn't mean that the whole county is racism. It just means that person is racism. And we all got to show love and be respectful to each other and hope that over time that those people learn a better way. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, we're going to stay with you for the next question. We're going to shift over to transportation. We have a lot of questions. I'll try to get one in that sort of captures some of the questions. But the attendees were wondering about improving public transit, active transportation, decreasing congestion. So the question for you is, how should the city and the county work together? Let me rephrase that. How should the county and all the cities work together on roads and transportation for everyone's mutual benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. 20, 30 years ago when we had a chance to do some of that stuff. In Thousand Oaks, we have a bus route that goes by us. And every day I look in the buses and I don't see a single person on the bus. I'm not sure the bus routes that we have are effective or the locations that we put them are effective. But I know as more and more high density might be built, we're going to need to improve our transportation and put more of a hub in a place that allows people to go between point A and point B. There is a lot of congestion. Adding hundreds and hundreds or thousands of homes is not going to improve congestion. That's going to make it worse. With COVID, we've learned that you can work from home. So I think more and more companies are able to reduce their overall footprint on businesses and be able to allow people to work from home. Plus, I think growing businesses in our area will allow people to stay local and work as opposed to driving to other communities around there. From another transportation, the train system, the metro system, it doesn't seem to be very effective. We're very widespread. It makes it very difficult for people to go from Ventura County to LA in a reasonable time. Electric vehicles are not very effective because the mileage and the time to charge them is not effective. So I think we got our hands cut out for us, Dave. But I think by starting with a proper hub and getting people to work locally with business growth is the way to start.
Okay, thank you. And Claudia, same question to you. How should the county and the cities work together on roads and transportation issues for the mutual benefit of all?
I sit on the Ventura County Transportation Commission. When I say I sit, I actually work. The Ventura County transportation item needs improvement. We have more than 8 operators, everybody working on their own in a sense. And we need a comprehensive transportation program. And we need to look at modernizing transportation and look at the future of transportation, which is why last year I introduced an item that we study how to consolidate the various different operators and make transportation much more efficient, and also look at a on-demand type transportation. So that study is underway right now. It will hopefully be finished, not by the end of the year, but early next year. But the way transportation is happening right now is no longer sustainable. These fixed routes that are mandated by the federal government simply are not feasible anymore. As was stated, buses are empty because they're going places where people really don't need to go. Now that is something that needs to change at the federal level. We do need funding at the state level as well. And that is why Ventura County Transportation Commission will work in concert with all the cities in order to make that happen. Electric buses are actually efficient. We're looking at different fuels as well that are more energy efficient and also environmentally friendly. But certainly we have to look at transportation very different.
Thank you, Claudia. I have to stop you there. Jeff, will wrap up with you on the same question about how the cities and the county can work together on improving transit.
It's a shame that we're not a self-help county. We need to find a way to get to the point where we can pull down additional resources that we do not get, that most other counties in California do get from the state and federal government. We also know that there's infrastructure resources coming from the federal government. We need strategic level planning within the County Board of Supervisors and at VCTC to understand where these resources can go and how they can affect the traffic that we all see. We all see it every day. It gets worse along the 101 and the 23 and all the corridors. And so additional smart decision making at the county level and at the city levels on growth and where that growth takes place, and how there's offsets for transportation by the project proponents to set aside resources to help alleviate traffic. That's key too. And I think it has to be done strategically as a region, not just Ventura County, but the entire region together in determining what the future of transportation looks like. The councilwoman was on VCTC, and she forced a vote that forced a local company that owned our transportation to sell to a giant mega corporation out of France that now currently operates our bus system. I think that was a wrong decision and going in the wrong direction.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to move on to the next question. Claudia, you'll be up first for this one. And we've talked a little bit about climate. I'm just going to wrap up with climate. One of the big issues in Ventura County that is being discussed is this question about measures A and B regarding oil drilling and antiquated permits. I'm going to ask each of you, what is your position? How will you vote on measures A and B, and why? Claudia, you're first.
If you care about our groundwater, which waters our fields and provides drinking water as well in some areas, you have S and B. A and B is forward thinking. It is not at all going to eliminate or delete or cancel any old or existing leases. It is future leases going through an environmental evaluation just to make sure that the type of drilling they use is actually not going to contaminate our groundwater, especially in this drought right now. We cannot afford that to happen. It will not cost jobs, none of that. In fact, we know that the oil companies have had a record profit in the first quarter, a record profit. We are a net exporter of oil. We're not stopping oil production in Ventura County. We're just making sure that it is safe and it doesn't impact public health or children's health or anyone else's health. And I just wanted to say also that in terms of a self-help tax, the self-help tax for transportation means that residents in Oxnard would be paying more than 10% in sales tax. Thousand Oaks would be paying probably about 8.5% sales tax. And we cannot afford to do that unless we are certain what this transportation tax, self-help tax will do.
Going to have to stop you there. Jeff, same question to you. How will you vote on measures A and B, and why?
Look, I think we need to start by saying that we can't have fear mongering here. First and foremost, there are no oil producing wells in the 2nd district for which we are running here. Secondly, there are enormous amount of regulations, safety regulations, environmental regulations imposed upon the wells by the local and state regulatory agencies. Third, energy independence now is a goal for everybody, including even the president of the United States right now, who's now again talking about energy independence and about imports of oil. The gas has never been a higher price than it is right now. The idea of ratcheting down against oil production locally doesn't make sense. These are also job creators. Thousands of local jobs are created outside of the 2nd district, but in Ventura County, and the 2nd district benefits from that. And then lastly, the most unenvironmental thing you can do is import oil. You can transport it. That's what you get the Exxon Valdez, and the emissions of transporting oil to our region or to the United States costs more in emissions than any other environmental impact that you can think of related to A and B. The 2nd district benefits from this, so I would encourage folks to vote no.
Thank you. And Tim, same question to you. How will you be voting on measure A and B, and why?
Yeah, just to lay out a few facts for people. First of all, what Ms. De La Pena is saying is typical political speak on trying to get you to go one way, which is green environment, which has a huge impact on jobs in another area. Our oil and gas industry employs about 2,000 people in Ventura County. 4% of California oil comes from Ventura County. And a big portion of our oil is very high grade, and it's piped directly to LAX, where it's used in airplane fuel. What's happened and what's changed is there's two leases now. There's an old, or what they call legacy lease, and then there's new leases. The new leases have really started after 1980s. Both, as Jeff has said, both of them follow tough regulations and environmental law. They have to. What is different is the Board of Supervisors changed the definition of drilling and include now maintenance activities which are needed to maintain a proper proper drilling, even on the old legacy one. Every one of those activities, when you want to do maintenance, or if you want to expand on a well, on a legacy unit, you have to go before the Board of Supervisors for an arbitrary approval. And the biggest problem with Measure A and B is the Board of Supervisors is the arbitrator of the decision, and nobody wants that.
Thank you, Tim. Jeff, you'll be up first on this next question. There has been, as one of you mentioned, some controversy within the county regarding the CEO's office. So describe for us any changes you would make in the workplace, such as establishing a hotline, and what do you think are qualifications necessary for the next CEO?
We have an interim CEO. By all accounts, she's very professional and very, very capable, and that's fantastic. We need to ensure that the leadership at the county level, the CEO and senior leaders, without fail, 100% adopt cultures within their work environments of a healthy workplace, of a supported workplace, of an equitable and fair workplace. What we saw was clearly the underpinnings of a lot of harassment and a culture where people didn't feel safe talking about what they saw. It's unacceptable. And again, I will repeat what I said earlier. I think we need a top-down review of the senior leaders in our key areas of county government to make sure that they are embracing the ethos of a healthy workplace. They're giving people fair opportunities. They are inspiring their workforce. They are leading with character, and that they are the kind of leaders that we expect them to be. I would like to have, as a potential supervisor, if elected, I think I would like to have an opportunity to decide who the permanent CEO is. And I would think whoever is elected in this new cycle would want to see the same.
Thank you. Same question to you, Tim, as far as the county's workplace. Are there changes you would make? Would you support a hotline for employee problems? And what do you think are qualifications needed in the next CEO?
Yeah, I have a real problem with how the county has operated. During COVID in the last 2 years, while they were shutting down businesses and people were unemployed, our county grew by 2,000 employees. We went from 8,000 to 10,000 employees while everybody else was struggling. And the average salary is about $100,000. I think that shows poor management, poor leadership, and a poor common sense method of figuring out what we should do with our county. I also had a problem that when the temporary CEO was added, that council member De La Pena first thing acknowledged how great she was with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have a host of issues. And whoever the CEO is needs to be able to bring in businesses. They need to work with police. They need to work with fire. We need housing. We need to handle homelessness. Diversity, equity, and inclusion should not be the top item that we're looking on for a CEO. We need someone that can handle a vast array of management positions and be able to lead by example. Much like Jeff says, I don't think the interim should be appointed. I think we should have the ability to investigate and do research and find the right candidate. And it might be her. I don't know her. I've never talked to her, but I would be open to having a discussion with her as well as any other candidate to see what's the best fit for Ventura County.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. We'll wrap up this question with you. What are some of the changes you think should happen in the workplace, including a hotline for employee problems? And what do you think should be qualifications in the next CEO?
If there are any morale problems, obviously the new leader needs to be able to address those with an open door policy, be fair, be objective, be experienced, especially in matters dealing with the economy. The new person, the new leader or CEO needs to also have passed a stringent sexual harassment training course, ethics training, making sure that all of that checks the box, for example, and someone who is inspiring and who is motivating. And so this is really a tall order because this person will be in charge of nearly 10,000 employees and, of course, 5 bosses who have to listen to the residents of District 2. It is really a very challenging job, and the right person for that job needs to be able to maneuver a lot of complex issues within the county, not only for District 2. And so they are doing a nationwide survey. Supervisor is asking for public input, which I think is an excellent idea. And I have Board of Supervisors use someone that is ready for the challenges and ready for the future, which does include an understanding of various Great too.
Thank you, Claudia. We're going to stay with you and we'll move to the next question. Let's talk a little bit about crime, public safety. As far as the sheriff's budget, how would you make any changes in the way that the sheriff's budget is allocated? Would you put more money to certain programs such as jails or sheriff services? Just share with us the overview of your plans, if elected, regarding public safety in the sheriff's department. Claudia, you're up. Unmuted.
My years on the Thousand Oaks City Council, we have always fully funded the police. Unlike the LAPD in 2020, its budget was cut dollars. And that was, of course, a very critical decision. Here in Ventura County, our crime is low because cities like Thousand Oaks are fully supportive of our sheriff's department and have been fully supportive of our sheriff's department. Now, one thing that I would do is we have 2 vulnerable population officers who deal with the homelessness population. They know the homeless and unsheltered persons by name, most of them, but they are police officers, they're deputies, trained to deal with crime. They are not trained to be social workers. And if elected supervisor, certainly I would want the deputies to work caseworkers with social workers on the issue of homelessness, but not have them carry the entire burden. And that is why it's so important to increase the number of caseworkers so that our backpack team, with whom I went out 2 weeks ago into the encampments, can actually focus on the issues of mental health, vaccinations, for example, AIDS testing, other testing that they conduct with their mobile unit on site. So that needs to be left up to those that have full training and leave the police work up to our deputies.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you. If you're elected, what will you do regarding the sheriff's budget? Do you have particular plans regarding reallocating some of the money?
Yeah, well, I think like Claudia mentioned earlier, I'm just one of 5 in that decision. But part of what I feel is that we need to expand our police department. We need to fund them with a little more technology and definitely more people in the street. We have to find a way to squash the criminal gangs that are coming in from LA County, stealing our converters, robbing our jewelry stores, and basically creating chaos. But there's also another problem, which is Governor Newsom is letting people out of jail. We have no cash bail, and more criminals are getting more brazen. I think I would expand or would like to expand our jails to make sure that people that do the crime do the time, so that if they're from another county or even within our own county, they think twice about creating crime because they know that there's going to be a punishment at the end of it. I think right now, too much of these low-level criminals are let loose only to go increase their crime and the level of crime because they know they can get away with it. I think we need to be tougher on crime. I think, however, with that, we need to have a carrot to help people to get out and help find a job. But if they don't follow the rules and they continue to create crime, they need to stay in jail.
Thank you. Jeff, same question to you. As far as the sheriff's budget, how would you look at reallocating any part of that? Where would your priorities be?
I went on a ride along week before last, 2 weeks ago, with the deputy sheriffs, and I also met and spent some time with the chief of police for Thousand Oaks, Jeremy Paris. Couple things that are key and different from when I was a prosecutor. The first is that 60% of the calls that these deputies are responding to are related to homelessness. So they need relief. They need more relief than they're currently getting because they're not trained to be service providers. They're not trained to be mental health providers. I would launch immediately a mental health 911 response capability like you see in Oregon and other places. It's very successful. I've already talked about that with our law enforcement leaders. When I was on the ride along, there were deputies that were doing double shifts. They're doing double shifts because we are having a staffing crisis right now at the sheriff's department. And one of the things is as a community, we're just not competitive enough to recruit and retain with there's such a competitive environment. So we need to do better with in particular, not necessarily the salary, but with some of the health benefits. We need to do better and become more competitive to get the right people and more people to come to Ventura County. We need to increase penalties on some of our crimes so that these deputies and these police officers have leverage. When people commit a crime now, they're just immediately out. And again, I was a former prosecutor, and the public safety has confidence in me. I'm endorsed by the Deputy Sheriff's Association, by former Sheriff Bob Brooks, by former DA Greg Totten, and many other public safety leaders.
Thank you. And with that, candidates, I'm going to go ahead and stop the questions to the audience. We had quite a few more questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to your question if it wasn't asked. Tried to give you a range of topics and hear the responses from the candidates. So we are now ready to reverse the order. And for the opening or closing statements, we'll be beginning with Jeff Gorell and then Tim McCarthy, and then we'll wrap up with Claudia Bill de la Pena. When you are ready, Jeff, you'll have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you again, David and Kathy, and for everyone. It's been an honor. I love Ventura County. And as I mentioned before, what drives me is what the future's like for my two boys, Jack and Steven, 12 and 8 years old. I want to make sure that they live in the kind of community that was as safe as when I was a prosecutor in Ventura County. And I want to make sure that they live in a place that has open space and the high quality of life that we all enjoy. I want them to know that there's jobs here that can keep them here and keep them gainfully employed and allow them to enjoy that quality of life. Biotech jobs, high-tech jobs, aerospace jobs. We need to do better. We need to do bigger and bolder things to recruit the businesses of the future. People talk about supporting veterans. I'm a veteran. People talk about working in public safety and supporting public safety. I was a prosecutor. People talk about supporting small business. I was a small business owner. People talk about education and the importance of the future. I taught for 6.5 years as an adjunct professor of public policy at Cal Lutheran University. I know also how to go to Sacramento and get things done and bring back the resources we need to preserve that quality of life. These are all the reasons and more that I think that I could bring leadership to protecting Ventura County values, protecting Ventura County open space and our wonderful place that we call home. That's why I'm endorsed by all these key leaders, and I'd be honored to have your vote. I'm Jeff Gorell. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Tim McCarthy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. You did a great job again as a moderator. I really appreciate the League of Women Voters for inviting and creating this first debate. First of all, the economy is in terrible shape. People cannot afford to live in Thousand Oaks or in Ventura County. People are moving out more than they're moving in. We have government that is trying to shut down oil and gas. They're trying to get rid of jobs. We have schools that are trying to take over for what the parents should be doing. Crime, even though it's not at an all-time high, but the fear of crime is at an all-time high. And majority of the people don't like government telling them what to do. And our government increased by 20% while everybody was being shut down. A lot of our problems happened over the last 20 years, where Linda Parks was the supervisor, and Linda Parks appointed Claudia as planning commission and to start that. And Claudia plans to do a lot of what Linda Parks does. I'm against most of what Linda Parks does. Okay. I am the only non-career politician running for office. I'm here to protect your rights. When the next time the governor tries to mandate what happens to your family, I'll stand up and protect you. I've done it over the last 2 years, and I'll continue to do it. With that said, I also have the experience and the knowledge and the community volunteering to get the work done that needs to be done to fix this moving forward, such as water and infrastructure and the protection of our open resources. Thank you, David.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Claudia Bill de la Pena.
Thank you, David. I just want to say that when it comes to special interests, I have not taken money from a single polluter in this campaign, none whatsoever. In my 20 years on the Thousand Oaks Council, I have stood up to developers, special interests, and yes, most recently, I said no to a billionaire developer from Los Angeles who wanted to build and will build a 6-story building with 0 affordable housing units and was able to purchase taxpayer property next to City Hall that was worth $7 million 30 years ago for a mere $2 million. Stuff like that doesn't fly with me. I don't rubber stamp. When I say something is wrong, I will say that. And that is one of the reasons why I have been the #1 vote getter in the last few of my elections, because I actually stand for something. I'm not a career politician. I am a mother with 2 teenagers, and I'm still a small business owner, not a former business owner, but still. And I'm also a caretaker, taking care of the 3rd parent in my house of my family. So I am really the real deal. I believe in transparency. I believe in doing something about climate change. And I believe that we do listen to the residents of District 2 all the time. We must believe in science, but do so reasonably.
Thank you, Claudia.
I want you to vote for Claudia Bill de la Pena.
Thank you. Thank you. We have some important announcements coming up, so don't go away. But before we do that, I just want to express my appreciation to all 3 candidates for joining us tonight. It's certainly a lot of work, so thank you for being here. Now it's my pleasure to reintroduce the head of our Voter Services Committee, Kathy Morgan.
Well, thank you to all the candidates for participating in our forum tonight and for all of the attendees. At this time, the League of Women Voters has prepared some important information about voting, and I would like to share that information with you. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Hold on one second. Okay, where did it go? All right, now is the time to plan your vote. The official ballot will be mailed to all registered voters starting May 9th. Once you have filled out your ballot, please place it in the official return envelope and be sure to sign the back of the ballot right here. Postage is paid on the return envelope, so you can drop it in a mailbox, a USPS mailbox, or one of the 38 drop boxes located around the county, which will be open starting May 9th. You may also take it to any of the in-person vote centers around the county. 10 of these vote centers will be open starting May 28th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then all 51 of the vote centers will be open for the 3 days before Election Day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. To be sure that you will receive your official ballot in the mail, check your voter registration status for the correct mailing address at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. To find Dropbox and voter center locations, go to the Clerk Recorder's Registrar's website, venturavote.org. You can track your ballot from start to finish by registering at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. And you will receive texts or emails to let you know that the ballot has been mailed out, when it will be delivered, and then has been received by the USPS to return, that has been received and processed in the elections office and will be counted. Also, there are several nonpartisan voter information sites to learn more about the candidates and the ballot measures. Voters Edge is the League's nonpartisan site, and Ballotpedia is another site. I encourage all of our candidates to complete their information on these nonpartisan sites so that the voters can learn about your priorities. As a reminder, this forum was being recorded, and the video will be accessible from our website, LWVVenturacounty.org, under candidate forums in 24 to 36 hours. There are also links to watch the videos from the past forums, as well as links to register for the future candidate forums yet to come. Thank you from the League of Women Voters. Please follow us on your favorite social media site, and please remember to vote. Thank you and good night.